What's going on YouTube? This is 3zinferno, so I'm here to talk to you guys today about burn decks and stall decks. Well, I know we're still preparing for nationals, so reason people run these at big events is they try to catch people off guard. If you can catch someone off guard, they're unprepared, their side decks not prepared for a burn or stall deck, generally they will lose. So the burn decks you're gonna play are like chain burn. There's not much of those stall burns anymore, like wave motion stuff like that. It's all chain burn mostly. You chain all 5 cards. Chain strike does a lot of damage if you have like Just Desserts or Geometry, etc., etc. So you have to always watch out for that. Okay. Stall decks are generally Final Countdown, even Exodia, but Final Countdown most likely because of that ruling they had with Thunder Ruler. And the other card I can't think of right now off the top of my head. But generally, also people run these because they're not as skillful. They don't require that much skill. I remember watching the Final Countdown guy who topped, and he said in his video, it's not a no skill deck. You have to think about whether you have to set 1 or 2 cards if they have an MST. I just like looked at him, watched the video, scratched my head. I was like, yeah, no, that's sort of silly, but anyway, yeah. So you will see these at nationals, and I hope you're prepared. How you prepare for these decks? Decree in the side deck, of course. If you have room, you put Decree in your side deck. Decree is really good against these burn and stall decks. But one thing I do want to say though is, if you can, you might want to run Jinzo instead. Reason being is because chain burn is going to side in MSTs, but they're not going to side in something like, not necessarily side in something like Smash and Ground, right? It's really interesting because they have their Space Typhoons for your Decree, but in the end you're like, I have a Jinzo, and they're like, oh crap, my MST doesn't blow up Jinzo. So it's really interesting that I really like the thought of signing Jinzo instead of Decree. Now, how else can you prepare for that? Some people I've seen, interestingly enough, side Trap Stun, which is a very interesting card too. Trap Stun, because it's chainable to MST, technically. What I mean by technically is, if they MST your Trap Stun, you chain it, then they can chain all their traps too. But, I mean, Trap Stun's still good, because you can wait for them to chain all their traps, and then chain Trap Stun on top. And then they can't be like, oh crap, because if it was Decree, they could MST at the end of it. But if you just chain traps, then they're like, oh, snap, that's not good. Like, all the traps just were useless. So I think that's really useful as well. The decks that have a better matchup, actually, are the ones that can swarm. You have Insectors and Dragons and among other things. But some decks that aren't as good because they're slower, like Heroes, sometimes in Dark Worlds, Monarchs, things like that, are generally slower, and burn and stall decks do take advantage of that. So I really want you guys to be prepared for burn and stall decks. You want to leave your Veilers in it, at least 1 or 2, because they're going to be running card D, or for their Morphing Jar, or whatever power like that they're trying to search out. Okay, they will be running Gores and probably Faders or something like that. So yeah, you have to go like almost all out on these guys and make sure, because they're probably not maining any torrentials, and if they are, sucks for you. But yeah, honestly, a chain burn deck might not run torrential. Final Countdown is more likely, so you really have to play it by ear and see how the game goes. All right, so that's all I have for burn and stall. Let me know what you guys think. All right, thanks guys. 3zinferno signing out.